Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. I'm Kevin Kloim, and this is the Venture Outfitter, and we're here today to have a conversation with our community, kind of like we're going to do some kicking off the new year kind of conversations. Let me bring up the slides so we can start right in. But we're here today with the Venture Outfitter. Part of what we're here as a community to do is to support each other in building out our ventures and moving forward and working together in the world and driving big changes. We'll talk more about that today, but part of what we're going to do is just get a lot of people that are that have been kind of waking back up into the Tech Ranch community and the Venture Outfitter. Venture Outfitter is one of the programs of the Tech Ranch community, but part of what we're up to here is to work with each other and supporting each other and building our businesses back and forth. I would like to say thank you to Linda Blackman and the team at DualWorks. You hear me acknowledge them a lot. We're going to have a number of new sponsors this year for 2023. But I really appreciate what Linda and her team are doing at DualWorks. In fact, if you're in Austin today and you're close by at 11:30, there will be a potluck here. And anyone that's got any kind of Tech Ranch affiliation is welcome to drop by. I would love to see you. I won't roll into that until after we finish this program, but that is happening right afterwards. And I know that there's a number of Tech Rangers that are going to be on site today here in Austin. So, and if you're not on site, but you'd like to actually say hi to some of the people, if you text me afterwards, I'll be happy to set up a broadcast channel on WhatsApp or whatever I might do. So thank you, Linda. If you're looking for co-working, if you're looking for a mailbox, if you're looking for anything that has that physical point of presence in Austin that you're looking for, DualWorks is great because it's right at 183 Mopac 360. Those three main roads intersect about 100 yards away from where I'm sitting right now. And so I appreciate what they do here. So if you haven't joined the Tech Ranch community site, like I mentioned, we're about to launch the paid for portion of this. We'll be launching a program called the Venture Outfitter on the community site that will include office hours and other things like that. But there's going to be a free portion of the community that we'll always keep free. We'll always keep open to everybody. If you want to be a part of that, make sure that you sign up. The easiest way of signing up is to go ahead and send an email to jello@ea@techranchaustin.com. That being said, if you're interested in the office hours and the program that we did with Jetro this last year and La Idea, or if you're involved in one of those type of programs, the program we did with the Czech Republic as well, you'll be able to get a light version of that at the Venture Outfitter price. We'll be announcing that very soon. So, but get involved in the community already if you're interested. On the 17th, in fact, the 19th, on the 19th, we will be talking about a lot of the projects we've done in Norway, specifically the bridges that have been built between Kristiansand, Norway, and Austin, Texas. Excited to reconnect. There's some interesting work that's happened historically all the way back to 2017, 2018, 2019. And part of what we'll be doing is connecting in with one of the individuals that drives the commune. That's what they call the city or the county area of Kristiansand, and then the county of Agder. We'll be talking a little bit more with them about some of the projects that have happened back and forth. Real excited to have that because this one group has done a lot of activities back and forth. On the 12th, we're still working out the details for next week. If you have a strong suggestion about what you'd like to see, let us know. I've gotten a couple different people who've asked for more information about the future and all the disruptive technologies. We've got a couple different guys that we're bringing forward with that. Today's quote of the week: as you start to walk the way appears. I think everyone knows that my favorite book of business insight is a book of poetry from Rumi. I saw this quote and I was like immediately saying, I absolutely love Rumi because he reminds us of part of life. A part of entrepreneurship is just part of life. And this quote definitely reminds of some of the most important things that we need to do. So that all being said, what we're going to do is do some conversations about kicking off the new year. If you are following us on one of the streaming services, you can always just post in there. I will be following there as well, and I'll be taking questions. Obviously, we're going to hear as well from part of our studio audience. We will be changing things around a little bit as we're going to be moving to more streaming activities so we can get more people involved in the streams. And we'll be updating some of the software. That being said, if you're interested in being a part of the studio audience, we really like that. I like the interactivity. And even though we're going to get away from Zoom, I want to make sure that you know that you're welcome to be a part of that. It's just a matter of, signaling your interest so that we can interact with you. All right. So kicking off the new year, last meeting or last event, Last VO Weekly, what we did was we talked about technologies that are going to change the future. Already had some new updates about that I'll share sometime very soon about how we're using ChatGPT, which is one of the tools to implement a bunch of things around TechCrunch that I couldn't imagine that, in the past, I would have had to find the right kind of contractor for, and some interesting things are happening. But what I thought, though, about kicking off the new year is I realized that I went through a framework that I had been exposed to in the past that has some really simple concepts that I thought, why not share those 8 concepts? And my suggestion to you is, even at the most base level, part of what you can do is just do these 8 things and you'll be way ahead for the year. Let me just hop right in. The first one was, at the end of last year, I canceled all of my repeating meetings, minus 2. The one that we're in right now, the Venture Outfitter Weekly, and the other one is our team meeting for TechCrunch, the one rally point. Those 2 things stuck. But everything else I changed. I canceled all of our meetings because I had a lot of standing meetings with a lot of different people. And the main thing is just qualifying. Does this meeting need to exist in 2023? It's a very simple thing. I call it reshuffling the deck. Just time to reshuffle the deck on everything and, just examine. And, it ended up, there's some... one of our customers, as an example, we put on hold with a mutual agreement between myself and the individual. That made a lot of sense, freed up a lot more of my time, because part of what we're doing is preparing for the future. So reshuffle the deck. That's my first thing I'd suggest. The second thing is to schedule your themes. Part of what they say, Stephen Covey says it this way: if you want to make sure that you get all the things in your schedule that you want to have, you put the rocks in first, the pebbles in second, then the sand and the water. You've probably heard that metaphor before. In my case, part of what I've done, in that I'm really working on, how is it that I work fewer hours, but be more effective with what I'm doing? And so this is what it looks like. On my Mondays, I always want my Mondays to be easy to start. And so part of what I do is and I've noticed that if I go from being, Mr. Extrovert, that I have a hard time getting back into Mr. Introvert that is, has to do engineering or deep productivity work. So I start my Mondays with just a work session. Don't talk to anybody at all. I will go in, and this is where I do a lot of my personal productivity. I'll, have my really strong Mexican coffee and, or Mexican style, the way I prepare it, with a little bit of cinnamon and bold coffee. And I do a work session on Mondays. Maybe at the end of the day, I have anyone that I'll actually meet. I mean, it's very unlikely, but sometimes I'll have a 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 5 o'clock meeting on Mondays. Because most of the time, I'm just in a t-shirt behind the computer getting stuff productively done. And it's a nice way to start the day, because if I need to sleep in just a little bit more so my Monday doesn't stress me out, I have that set up. Tuesday is the day that I'm doing all my admin. And you don't have to follow these concepts, but the main thing about it is you can get a productivity boost if you're not switching back and forth between different modes of mind. So on Tuesday, I do all my administration, all my accounting. Our team meetings are those days from my two companies. My accountant and my bookkeeper know that if they need anything from me or if I need something from them, there's a specific time on Tuesdays that we might interact. Usually we don't, but we might interact. And all the paperwork, like there's a stack of paperwork that I'll bring out, everything from insurance forms to bank stuff and things like that. I'll work on it. And then, I do the things that I have to get done during that time. And then a lot of it, I'm learning with the work that I'm doing with my coach to say, okay, I've done enough, and I push the rest of the side for the next cycle. That happens on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, it's meet and work. These are a lot of work sessions. If you and I have a project together, more than likely this will be one of the days that we'll actually do work to side by side. So meet and work means I'm not working as an individual productivity person like I did on Monday, but I'm actually interacting back and forth on more work projects. This is also when we're going to do our office hours like we did last year for the La Idea and the Jetro and the Czech Republic thing. Sometimes we'll do those on Wednesday afternoons. Thursdays is where broadcasts interact. And this is where, if you want to see extroverted Kevin never gets put up on Thursdays. I wake up a little bit earlier, have even stronger coffee, sit here in front of you guys, but most of the rest of the day, I'm just going to be in meetings. So if I have external meetings with new people, as an example, I'll typically do it on the Thursdays. And then Fridays, I try to have my Fridays be much more fun. And I'm still working, but the idea is to have Fridays be fun, and it's almost like it's almost like being back in school again. Let's have it be much more fun. And for me, that means relationship building and brainstorming. And as an example, tomorrow I will be meeting with different people. There's one guy that I've been working with at arm's length that now we're going to be working more together in a more business partnership kind of role. It's two separate companies, but as an example, that's what I'll do tomorrow afternoon. And then I have a happy hour with the former financial controller for Tech Ranch from years ago. He's back in the country. So, really important relationship building kind of things, but I try to do that all in that one thing. Typically, Fridays will be the only time that I'm really hopping into the car and moving around. I say it this way, and I think it's good for you to think about it as well, that a lot of times if you're spending a lot of time in a car, that's a lot of transaction time. So for me, the only time that I really try to do that is on Fridays. You can schedule your themes however you want, but part of what I'm actually pointing to is if you do this, it's been shown that you can actually get your brain to go into the right mode for the right time. And this schedule I've found has been a little bit easier on me. I've changed it around a little bit from what 2022 looks like to 2023, but I think there's value in doing that. The third thing is, I want to point back to 3 weeks ago, we talked about a lot of different tools, is automate yourself. As an example, the thing that this is a reminder about is a part of what we're up to is just automating ourselves on all the different tools that are needed around just my personal time and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of different things that are happening around that. You can actually go back to that session. But the most basic level for what I am doing right now is, since we have so many programs that we're doing in Japan and with our friends in Central Asia, shout out to Uzbekistan, my friends there, as an example, those timeframes, I'm automating some of the scheduling about that because it's awkward. It's awkward because, I'm only going to be working on those time zones on Monday and Tuesday night. So let's go ahead and set up calendar links for that type of stuff. So what are you doing to automate yourself? Each week, I would suggest that you have at least one thing that you're doing, that because of that one thing that you've got set up, that you're able to you're able to interact and take care of yourself. Next thing on top of that, number 4, is what's your daily mental prep? Now, for those of you all that know me, know that my mental prep is I have a meditation practice. I really am having a hard time getting it done in the morning versus in the evening. I missed it again today, and I'll do it after this call. But I'm not sure that I'm really going to be able to become a morning meditator. But one of the things to be doing is, what are you going to start doing and stop doing? That question, and then going into a short meditation, even if it's 5 to 15 minutes. I do 30, but if you do 5 to 15 minutes, that can be really, really, really powerful. And so we'll talk about this more, because I think a lot of times there's certain things that make it possible to have entrepreneurs go way beyond. And it seems like you guys have been giving me feedback that, help me tell me more about this sort of stuff, is what I've been hearing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, because I think I've probably spent more energy and mental prep than most of the other entrepreneurs that are long-term entrepreneurs that I know. And I'm finding, especially right now, a real big value of that. Well, actually, I'd love to hear from some of the people in the studio audience a little bit about what you do as well. But what are you going to start and stop doing? Writing that down before you go into a meditation, and just working through, even if you're just emptying your mind in the meditation, because that's the type of meditation, reminding yourself right beforehand with just a piece of paper is a really powerful practice. And schedule self-care and exercise. And I separate self-care from exercise because I'm starting to realize, and maybe it's just because I've got a 54-year-old body here. I don't feel 54. I actually feel like I'm in my young 40s, or maybe even younger. But I think part of it is that I'm actually spending more time focused on self-care. For me, that looks like I've actually started following something that comes out of the Dr. Huberman podcast, who I'm a big fan of. And we'll talk more about what the insight that I'm gaining from that is, spending time in everything from not just exercising, but sauna and cold dips and things like that, all the way to what's the exercise I'm taking on, whether it's one of my martial art practices, yoga, weight workout, kettlebells, boxing workout. I've been doing all those different types of things since the beginning of the year. And the exercise is interesting, but I'm finding that there's just as much power in going to a spa and just taking it easy for a few hours. Really interesting how I'm seeing more impact in my well-being in that type of stuff. And so I want to include you into that whole concept. And if you don't have a self-care practice, this would be a great time to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm thinking about, or let's talk more about that in depth. And then now, a lot of that was stuff that's just like kind of the tactical, low level type of stuff. But of course, we should be thinking about strategy. Your strategy for a business shouldn't be changing. And I've been looking at, since I don't think I'm a strategy expert, I'm looking at who would be the best person to come speak to us about strategy. But it's really interesting, this idea of what is the strategy? What is the set of things that you're doing so that you can win? It's not your products. It's not your marketing. It's your strategy. We'll talk more about that in a coming interaction. I've got a couple of really great pieces of content that I'm going to share in the articles area in the community site, so you can go there and read about this. There's actually a YouTube video that specifically I'm going to share about this, that I think is just excellent, about separating out what your activities are from your just strategy for how you're going to win. So that's the thing to be thinking through as well, about what you might do there. And the main thing is to articulate your strategy and to continue to articulate it. It shouldn't be shifting. It's not like, this is not something that should shift every year. Strategy, a statement of strategy is a statement of, okay, this is how we're organized to take advantage of the opportunity we see in front of us, but not the activities. The activities are separate activity. There's separate things to talk about. And then what's your articulation of your goals? It's interesting with my coach, Ari Messel, the coach that I work with, he's actually been telling me, don't worry so much about goals, just worry about getting better every day. Every day getting, incrementally better. He's got me doing stuff that he calls Kaizen. That is the Japanese term for polishing and getting better every day. That being said, I think it's good to have some ideas about what is it that you're saying that you're up to for the year. For me, there's a revenue thing that we're talking about, where I want to get our community back in shape since everything kind of got put on hold, as we're really building back now that we can actually really do some of the aggressive things that we were doing before COVID happened. Some goals around that, and I'll share pretty openly in the coming weeks about what those are, because I think that this is where together we can conspire together, which ties us in to the last thing is, how are you getting connected to your community? I think this is probably one of the hidden things. Why is it hidden? Most of us, at least in my case, and a lot of the people I've talked to, lost some connection to community during COVID. And COVID was just extremely hard on a lot of us, whether it was international connections or just getting together with friends over a coffee or something like that, whatever, grabbing drinks or stuff like that. Part of my concern with the Tech Ranch community, and one of the reasons that we're working hard on this community software and ways of getting y'all more connected together, is this is the superpower. You can work your butt off as an entrepreneur. But part of the thing that, as an example, I was working with another entrepreneur yesterday that we'll hear from in the coming weeks, a guy by the name of Ravi, who's working on a Fair Deal, Texas. Fair Deal is like, how is it that we get people housing and healthcare access? And we spent 2 hours just talking, just with no particular agenda in hand. This was not a regular meeting yesterday. It was just like let's explore how can we help each other type of thing. That sort of stuff we should be doing together more as a community of entrepreneurs, because a lot of times, if you might think about it this way, 5 minutes of your insight at the right time in my business's history or someone else's business's history can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. The main thing is creating those opportunities for that productive friction to happen. If you're not, this is a short advertisement for me to say as well. Obviously, if you're not in our community and you want to be, like I said before, there's a way of getting involved that doesn't involve cash. Now, that being said, we are layering some things on that will cost. But that being said, even if you're in the middle of some other part of the world and you want to get involved in the community to get that first level up of insight for supporting your company, please get involved in our online community. All right, well, so I'm wondering, for other people, maybe there's a couple different other people that are kicking off the new year that have things to say of what they're up to. Thus far, everyone's been kind of quiet on the streaming sites and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, what are y'all doing to kick off the new year? What type of planning, what type of activities have you done? I know that we have a handful of people that are in the studio audience. If you're at all game, I've talked to Denise just a little bit while ago about possibly having her share something about that. But I'm just wondering, anyone want to hop in and say, hey, this is what I'm doing to kick off the new year? And whether it's planning or otherwise. Denise, you just came off of mute. Join us for a second.
Okay. I serendipitously ran into former colleagues from research I was doing in Lockhart. What's today? Tuesday. And got some great insights into some ed tech opportunities and the jargon we need to use, because there is money available for mental health and safety. So when we put mental health, wellness, and safety in the descriptions of what we're doing, then we will have access to that. But we'll have to go through district And you have to find somebody that you can link to in the district that that's controls that money. So it's sort of like Shark Tank, I think, and being able to pitch what you can do and how you can help teachers talk about community, how you can help teachers build those relationships, how you can free their time up from the compliance crap to build the relationships. Good teachers know that. And that part of the reason they're leaving the field is because they are so buried in compliance, they do not have an opportunity to work with kids. And that's why they do, that's why they teach. They teach.
There's not, you haven't gotten a chance to talk to Stephen Gilbraith at Tappy recently, have you?
Not recently, no. I didn't know. I knew he'd gotten stuff on Kickstarter, so fill me in.
The main thing is he's actually talking about helping teachers with a lot of compliance through their platform as well. The other person that's talking about mental health specifically comes out of the medical field. Celia as well is talking about that as well. This is a good place where I ought to get Jello to start a thread to pull things together, so that we can actually have that. I think that we have a mental health channel on the community. It'd be great to actually tag a few people on that. Celia, Stephen, Denise, Jola, if I don't get a chance to do that before anyone else does, let's get that thread started in that channel, because that's where the mental health one goes across both education, ed tech, and it goes across the healthcare one. That's why I started that separate channel. So that'd be great, Denise.
Yeah,
I'm excited to hear about that as well, because that's there's so much. I was reading about life insurance death rates have gone way up, and not of older people, but younger people. And it's really kind of been scary. So yeah, I can imagine that. So
good. That'll work. So, but that was a big aha, because I you can even go on Texas website, I think, I don't know if it'd be in TEA or the government kind of stuff, but every district got money, federal money, for mental health and safety. And of course, a lot of it is the boards don't know what to do. The superintendents don't know what to do. They don't know what to do that's actually going to be effective, except they know how to make stronger locks and, bulletproof glass and name tags that track the children and the teachers and all that kind of stuff. And that isn't mental health. The more you control you have to have a safe environment, but it has to be an environment that everybody feels like they can keep themselves safe. And
exactly. If I'm having to walk into a prison, that's the illusion of safety. There's no safety in that.
Right. It's an illusion. That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's what, but it's visible. And that's what general populace thinks is safe. And so they spend all that time on stuff that actually makes it worse.
Yeah, I don't know. They need to all go. This will sound silly, but they need to go to Norway and hanging out in like I don't know, even like airports in Norway. They're so relaxed. It's just crazy compared to like it would be great for us to actually have one of our members in one of these other countries just show what it's like to walk into a school in Norway. I might see if our new regions, although there's several different places in the world that we could use this, that a lot of times the impression might be that I think a lot of times Americans just don't have a chance to see something beyond a certain way. All right, well, Denise, is there any way that for anyone that's following up, that hears this as a podcast or as on the website, that you'd like to make sure that they follow up with you? If they, there's going to be a few people that will be able to access it through the community site, community.technext.com. But I'm just wondering, for you personally, do you have a URL that you'd like to state, just so if someone wants to find out more about what you're up to, that they can get connected in?
Probably best to use my email. Would be Dr. Denise Kern at gvtc.com. And then I promise I'll check it. And because I don't have a website yet, but I'm working on it because I don't have money to do it yet, but I will.
Understood. Even if we get you doing a one-page website, I think that'd be great. But
I
yeah,
will work at that. Yeah. So
one-page website would be great. And
okay,
that's another thing to ask for your community, from your community as well. Okay, well, perfect about that. Cool. Well, and if there's other things you want to pipe in about, let's make sure that you get a chance to. We'll switch over to Melvin. Melvin's got his hand raised in the studio audience, and Melvin, how's our favorite Marine doing?
Hey, Kevin, doing perfect here. Thank you so much. And what comes to mind in listening on today's activities and previous ones are growing the pie. You know, what you do is not just taking the pie and slicing the slices ever smaller so that each person gets less and less, but is growing the pie. Just, you know, a great example is what Denise was just talking about. She had the idea, it sparked, and she's talking about it. So it's venturing out into new territory and helping. So does growing the pie make sense to you, Kevin?
Yeah. You know, you're saying like getting more opportunity together. Like as an example, Denise opened up an opportunity. There's several different places, several different entrepreneurs that could get involved in it. Yeah, that's an interesting concept, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. You know, I appreciate what's going on here, and I'm thankful for everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Melvin, for being here. Melvin's the acting director of our nonprofit as well. So if anyone, a lot of times, part of if your startup or if your company has a set of opportunities that it needs a partner in to fit the bill of what the nonprofit does. You know, it has to drive impact. Whatever the activities have to do is have to drive impact. But specifically on leveraging the tools of entrepreneurship and technology to solve problems for underlying groups that are underserved. That's everything from minorities to veterans and other things like that. And the board had actually mentioned recently about having this focus on around mental health, which is one of the great things about what Denise just mentioned. I'm wondering, Melvin, anything else you'd like to say about that? Just like if there is anyone that to tie in anything that the nonprofit needs in supporting what you're up to and what the board's up to.
Yeah, just looking for activity, you know, focused activity. If you have something that you're working on, you have an idea, let's throw it out there and see what is available for us to bring others to bear on that, you know, building partnerships. You know, Kevin, what comes to mind is, you know, what, you know, we have the focus on. Is there something, I see RD here, is there something that could help him specifically? You know, it could be one focus. Is there something, a broader focus that Denise is talking about that would help build out something across not just Texas, but the nation and in the school districts and in the mental health and the safety and then you know, what you've done so spectacularly through the years with the bridges in the various countries. So there's various levels of focus that we're looking at, and we just ask that, you know, if you got something, got an idea, got some resources, let's get together.
And that makes sense. Perfect.
I have a ton of resources, but I'm actually thinking about that in a little different slice of the pie, because I've spent some time in very modest means, and there's a lot of people that experience mental health issues that are of the real lower income, and a lot of those things are tied around to the, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, clothing, shelter. And you really got to take care of those in a lot of ways to some extent before you can move on to, self-actualization stages.
Yeah, I know it's like that base level of the pyramid. Part of what's interesting is a lot of the homeless societies that I've been reading. The fundamental thing that's being missed, just since it's a theme that's come up a bunch of different times, is mental health. Right? It's like and
Yeah.
one of the quickest ways about dealing with that is just to home the homeless. So there's a lot of different concepts about that. Anything else you would like to say about that, RD?
Well, I've got a buddy. There's two guys that one's been staying here for 8 years under the bridge at Grand Avenue and 35. And he got a voucher for 1 year. So that's really changed his life. That's not the extent of the help he needs. The other one has gotten a slot out at Community First Village. I don't know if Mobile Loaves and Fishes, Community First Village, if somebody's trying to Google that. Wonderful, wonderful place, largely funded by Paul Mitchell, the shampoo guy. But there are it's a neighborhood of tiny houses, and it really serves that need. But I spent a lot of time with those guys, just kind of hanging out and, helping them kind of support emotionally to go ahead and try and, get this voucher, go ahead and try and get this, demand, and just calling them up or asking them and exchanging, letting them have my cell phone number. But one of the things that really struck me was how big an impact it is to have something secure that you can build on. Because when you're under the bridge, everything that you own, it gets stolen. Everything. You go to the bathroom, everything you go and gets stolen. Or, the last time James went to the restroom, and the cleanup crew came through. So all his HIV medication, all his heart medication, he lost it all.
Wow.
And you lose your driver's license, you lose everything. But the idea that what it takes to build on something, because it's really hard to like, okay, I'm going to save up for something, or I'm going to make my little camp better, anything, right? It's really, really hard when every time you do something, it gets taken away from you.
It would be
security, oddly enough, is a huge component of that mental health. Safety. It doesn't seem that way, but safety, not getting killed, not getting robbed.
Yeah, no, that's it would be interesting for us to have a program just specifically about that. I mean, now a lot of people, that might be hearing this can't relate because they didn't grow up in that type of situation. They didn't, they only, they don't think of the person on the streets as the possibility of themselves. It's interesting. I remember early in my career going to Silicon Valley.
You're one car wreck away from it.
Yeah, well, it's especially in healthcare where a lot of you have people that you have that one accident and they lose everything. They lose their ability to work, and then they lose their healthcare, and then the next step is they're bankrupt in the streets. I've seen that happen. I also saw when I lived out in the Bay Area early on in my career in the 90s. There was a guy that went from being like a productive engineer at a company that ended up in the streets of San Francisco. Really quite odd that you can't imagine it a lot of times when you're sitting on the engineering person who is software engineer who's got like the really fat salary but can't imagine that they could fall that far. It would be great to actually have a program where we talk about homelessness and some of the solutions that are happening, because a lot of times I think that there are ways of tying in and creating solutions that come from the technology world that we can't imagine right now how a new technology might be able to be applied in this underserved, non-served market. And for those of you all that don't know what I'm kind of trying to hint at, if you want to create a new market, you go to the non-served, underserved part of the market and then write it up into other aspects. That is a Clayton Christensen, who's one of the authors that writes about that 101. I think it's interesting from the standpoint of the people who might not identify with that, for them to hear about some of the stuff. RD, do you have specific ideas about who we might bring on to the program to discuss more in depth about that? By the way, you're still on mute.
Yeah, there's a number of folks. I could probably start off a conversation with that. Because I actually thought that that's not a bad idea, because sometimes entrepreneurs are afraid to start their own, but they're not afraid to help somebody else.
Yep.
And because your ego is not quite as online if you're trying to, sell flowers on a street corner or something, right? But you can do a lot of training or like training yourself to speak publicly or door-to-door sales, right? If you're in that environment and trying to help somebody negotiate the system of help, right? Or to help them start up their own little tiny business, right? Because somebody that's on the living homeless could do things like at a makerspace, right? Which is a $70 a month, $75 a month investment, right? So that gives them a place to, one, be out of the cold weather, but also do some activity. But there's a lot of opportunity for people to call it finishing school for entrepreneurs, right? That your finishing school for your education or whatever could be something where you're helping somebody else start some small business, right? Your process of going through, because a lot of the scar tissue, right?
Yep.
You could get your scar tissue at a cheaper price by going, oh, well, how do I get this person to start up a hot dog stand? Because I want to start up a restaurant, right?
Yeah, no, it's interesting how you can actually use that little microcosm to create opportunity. Well, what I'll do is I'll ask Jello to make sure that he captures the concept about what technologists can do for the homeless. I want to make sure that those of y'all that are listening to this, especially, I know that there's a number of people that listen to it recorded later on. The groups that we've worked with concerning refugee situations, that to me, in the way I think about things conceptually, the refugee situations look very similar to homeless situations. It's just different timing and stuff like that. And I know that I know we have a lot of technologies, like we've had entrepreneurs that have been taking on refugee situations, in the Mediterranean, France and Italy specifically, France, Italy, and Spain. From people who have come from Northern Africa to those places, people that have displaced in Syria towards other countries in that area, and then obviously across Mexico from Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. We've got entrepreneurs that have been involved in the TechRanch community in each one of those. I think there's an opportunity to pull those conversations together. And interesting enough, this is where an emerging technology, whether it's an app on a phone or something else, this is a great place to actually solve a problem for the unserved or the poorly served or the unserved, that then can actually drive into some other part. So we'll follow up about that.
Well, you know how you always talk about minimum viable product?
Yep.
Things of that nature. So one of the things that just like immediately sent off alarm bells was like, oh, we're going to throw technology at this problem. And oftentimes you're not aligned. When you have a great idea, it's not aligned with your customers' needs. And this is one of those particular spaces where it's very easy to be disconnected from the customer's needs. So I want to put that out there front and center, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean to
I know you. I was just saying that for the broader audience, the larger.
Yeah, no, the main thing about it is being sensitive in all character, in all opportunities about this, especially since we represent a community of people that are working cross-border, cross-country, cross-industry, cross all this sort of stuff, with this one concept of, hey, we're here to help. We're entrepreneurs, we're technologists, we're here to help and working with each other. I think the sensitivity is important to continue to uncover. But let's bounce around a little bit. Let me see one of our entrepreneurs.
quick note right
Yeah,
quick.
go right ahead, RD.
I posted a link in the chat. It's Technology Exchange Labs. So it's kind of like a clearinghouse for all sorts of ideas that help the bottom billions.
We'll definitely take a peek at that. I just brought that up on my own. That's an interesting website. Part of what we'll do is we'll make sure that's available in the show notes. And RD, when Jello posts this onto the VO Weekly channel in the community, I'd love to have you say a little bit more about that, so that starts the thread that we can go and follow further, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. Well, let's reach out to Prague. And David, we haven't gotten to hear from you in a while. David Nichols is one of our Texans based out of the Czech Republic. What's happening in your part of the world, David?
It's unseasonably warm. Other than that, just real busy.
Yeah, well, so you give your really quick elevator pitch, and then you have a couple of hobby projects that you've told about in the past. But kicking off the new year, what's happening in your world? Talk about your company first and foremost, though.
Thank you. Yes, very good. So we have a software product. It's a platform for process automation and data integration. Basically IT process automation. We can do things like microservices, all sorts of stuff. But anyway, we're basically about connecting AI and data science to enterprise data technologies and systems, and allowing us to scale. And so basically we have a new open source version of our software coming out in a little more than 2 weeks. No, less than 2 weeks, sorry. On the 17th of January is the launch date. And so we're super busy trying to get all that ready with all the web stuff and videos and how-tos and all the supporting documentation to make the launch a success. I've also started, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, beautiful. How do people find you if they want to find? Actually, let me do this before so I know your jargon, but I want you to translate your jargon into English. Like, what would be something that would be like, wow, you could do that use case for this one company? Give us one English, no jargon. And I love your jargon, by the way, because I understand it. But give us like an English version of, oh, okay, this company could do the following thing with your technology, so that people that might be considering leveraging your open source product will know, oh, okay, we should pay attention.
It's so hard to speak English like that because I'm so deep into the delivering of this stuff. But anyway, it's about like, if somebody has a fancy, AI based or data science based solution, and they want to make it so it's ready to serve like a lot of customers and scale and be reliable and to be able to be operated at a reasonable cost and stuff like that, fault tolerance and stuff, we can help. We can get you access to the data, and we can cross the bridge from the AI world to the enterprise world, if that's better English.
Yeah, so let me say it in this way. If you have data that you want to surface to like your customers, and you actually want a platform to extract that data and then present it through an AI type of interface, like a chat bot or something like that, David's tools are good for that. And it's interesting. I throw this out there just because it's possible to leverage his tools now for free, since they're going to open source. How's the launch going? Like when's the launch happening? What's the status about that? How can people find out more?
January 17th. I just got a request from Forrester. They want to do a review of our software, and I told them to wait till after the launch. So, I mean, basically we have a lot of like web assets and videos and things like that, and not a lot of videos. We only have a few videos, but a lot of other web materials, and we're like scrambling to get it all formatted correctly so we can, publish it. So that'll be on January 17th. And we actually have images, like Docker images and stuff like that already available, like snapshots, beta releases or whatever. But after January 17th, everybody can go for it, and I hope it's gonna be useful for people, and it's gonna allow us to get more business and grow.
That's beautiful. Well, so part of what we'll do is David's contact information, Melvin's already put into the
you, Melvin.
LinkedIn stream, as well as the chat stream here. I'm just wondering if, and given that David's company is going into the open source world, and I think a lot of people have actually seen the power of AI, right, of artificial intelligence, and being able to like surface this type of, surfacing data out of the enterprise, out of like, these corporate databases and making it more available so you can interact. It's really kind of powerful about what that might represent.
It's scary
Andy
powerful.
Yeah, scary powerful. Well, hopefully you're doing it for good though.
Yeah, but we're just like enabling it to be like really massive. So that's also scary. I don't know if you guys have checked out OpenAI just opened up their, what is it, Chat GPT or something like that.
Yes, indeed.
It's amazing. You can, I just played with it and had like some moral and philosophical conversations with the AI, and there were very intelligent responses. There was nonsense sometimes, but it was very well, constructed nonsense. Like they were basically, we're talking about, if you guys have seen or read The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, which is a book by Douglas Adams. At one point, the crew of it, and it's very silly, right? The crew of this spaceship goes to the restaurant at the end of the universe. They time travel, and we watch the interviews. The universe end, but anyway, there's a talking cow that comes to the table that tries to sell itself its own meat to the people at the table. And I thought that would be a good, subject to chat with the AI about, and basically at the end of the day, the AI had very, intelligent things to say about that, but there was getting to the point where they were saying that even insects are sentient, and it's not morally justifiable to even eat insects, and of course meat is even worse. And anyway. Way off topic. Sorry, Kevin.
No, it's not a problem. I think that part of what we need to do is, so one of the things that's going to start happening in the community is, since I'm paying attention a lot to AI type of, well, I can't announce where I'm going to be, but I'm going to be consulting at the national level for another country yet to be announced. But I'm personally paying attention to a lot of those AI ethic kind of issues. And just because it's about to disrupt so many jobs, and not just the low level blue collar jobs. If you saw the talk that I did 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, I gave a talk about how AI was going to disrupt all these blue collar jobs. Like the number one job in Texas is truck drivers, right? The really wild thing about what's implied by Chat GPT and other tools like that, AI that's coming out, is it's knowledge workers that are going to get disrupted as much as anyone.
Yeah.
Whereas my read originally was that I was like, it's going to disrupt all these blue collar, yeah, the truck drivers' jobs are going to get disrupted because it's easier to automate that sort of stuff than, but it's really interesting about how this is going to disrupt even knowledge workers. So yeah, we need to be thinking about that.
And creative professionals.
Yeah, creative professionals as well, like a lot of the
It's
AI.
just incredible.
Yeah, you would never have imagined that. And part of the role that we have as entrepreneurs is, okay, we have to build the new jobs as quickly as possible and figure out what's the ethic around that. So it's all good that you brought it up, David. I think it's important for us to be looking at that. There's a number of articles that Paulina is posting into the chat session as well. Part of what we'll do is we'll capture some of those I will be doing synopsises of a lot of those AI type of tools into the AI artificial intelligence channel on the community. If you want to, you can subscribe and you'll get these little synopsises, about 3 sentences per article, and you can decide if you want to go in a little bit deeper about that. But that's coming soon. I tell you what, Jello is giving me the signal that I'm talking a lot, and that it's time for us to get back to closing up the day today. It's been good to have this conversation from a standpoint of a community connection, kicking off the new year, kind of exploring some of the concepts, reminding ourselves about the reason the community is here is to help each other impact the world in a positive way. And so I think that came out in all the different things that were said. Please use those 8 concepts that I talked about earlier on planning out your year and kind of doing a reset. If you haven't taken a day off, if you didn't stop and do something for whether it was Hanukkah or Christmas or whatever you do to kind of reset the year, make sure that you do that. I'm going to continue to do that over the next few days, just because it's really, really, really important to take a moment to take care of yourself. But part of what we'll do is I'll go ahead and get to my closing slides. Just want to remind you, if you are hearing this for the first time and you haven't gotten on our email list or want to be listed on our mentor list or country managers or our newsletter, go to techranch.com/connect. It's also my understanding that we now have Venture Outfitter published in a podcast. We'll do a quick review of that next time, because I just hadn't had a chance to see that this is actually, it's now out there. Our Paloma on our marketing team has launched it out there. So I'm pretty excited about that. So this material will now be accessible in a wider sense. We'll have that information on the Connect page this next week as well. But if there's anything you need, please let us know. Also, if you're not on our radar yet and you want to be as a venture, the easiest way to do that is to go to techranch.com/contact us and give us information about what you're looking for your venture. And we'll organize, get you connected into the right team member or consultants or coach or part of the community that's there to serve you. And with that, we'll get to the last slide and say thank you for your time today. It's always an honor to be a part of a community of entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values. Let's go change the world for the better together. You all take good care. Make sure you kick off the year taking care of yourselves. Get some good planning going. Let me know what you need, and we'll see you next week. Thank you all.